to ShiftWatch. I'm your host, Starbuck. In this episode, I'm not promoting the unmindful use of cannabis, mind you, but I've been sharing my experiences with plant medicines, including cannabis, for a bit now. So it only makes sense that this perspective of its use came along to remind us what it is actually unlocking from within us. Here is exploring the spiritual side of marijuana, its role in mystical experiences, and its role in healing fractals of ourselves. Then, what if the earth tilted, where the tsunamis would go, and other related results? Ben Davidson brings us a well-prepared illustration of one perspective of this imminent shift for the planet. And also, this from Cosmo Knowledge is another source for comprehending Earth's magnetic field and the sun's influence on it. Then, as a follow-up to the story reporting the presence of UAPs over the Ukraine skies recently, here is a clip to remind us of this beyond Earth Sentient attention being paid to assist in the protection of the planet while Earth is going through horizon consciousness. And finally, Thoth and the Emerald Tablets are making their way back to our attention. Here is some clarity on comprehending the 9 dimensions within the earth planes and the lords that oversee them as described in the Emerald Tablets. See how beginning with 3, they describe the overall vibratory law within that dimension? Then you will begin to sense where energetic we are in this ascension process, living in the 3rd, sensing and articulating the 4th, and coming into 5th reality. Beyond that lies the non-physical light forms of ourselves in 6, 7, 8, and 9. To give some perspective gleaned from the tablets, Thoth, or Tahuti, resides in the 8th. The dweller is in the 9th, ultimately overseeing all earth planes.
Ancient cultures across the globe treated cannabis as a sacrosanct plant. Could this data-deficient plant hold within itself a key to deeper truths concerning your own identity and possibly even life as such? How can we make use of marijuana consciously so that its disadvantages are minimized and we can draw full spiritual benefit from it? Cannabis has a far more complex history, much more than what is usually noticed when viewed through the restricted prism of debate or leisure. This humble plant has been valued by civilizations for millennia as far more than a source of comfort or enjoyment. It has served as a spiritual compass, a portal to transcendence, and a mirror reflecting the innermost truths of the soul. However, so much of this holy knowledge has been lost in our contemporary world, replaced by pointless arguments and transient joys. This film explores the rediscovery of marijuana's spiritual potential to disclose its mystical function in better understanding and personal development. Along the way, we'll make stops at provocative stories and revelations. You'll learn how cannabis has helped seekers overcome the emotional barriers to self-discovery, dissolve ego, and connect with the divine. You'll also hear cautionary tales, the stories of those who forgot the sacred potential of awareness and became dependent upon it without it. By the end, you'll learn how cannabis can elevate your spiritual practice and benefit your life when it is used with respect and purpose. Whether you are a seasoned expert in this subject or have little knowledge about it, this inquiry will challenge and inspire your perceptions about marijuana, the ageless, sacred plant. More than a plant, cannabis is a teacher, a guide, and a symbol traveling with people through time for thousands of years. Considered for a long period of time to be one link between the holy and material worlds, it gives insights into worlds that are invisible to our ordinary senses. Why is this plant a part of spiritual traditions worldwide. And what is it that makes it so special? Cannabis was considered to bring joy and protect against evil powers, one of the 5 sacred plants listed in the Atharva Veda of ancient India. Vijaya, which means victory, commonly used in ceremonies dedicated to Lord Shiva, symbolized victory over bad times. Devotees took bhang, a cannabis mixture made with milk and spices, to dissolve the ego and tune into divine rhythms while celebrating events such as Mahashivaratri. They were seeking freedom from the shackles of materialism, not drunkenness. In shamanic cultures, from Siberia to Central Asia, cannabis smoke was an offering to the heavens. Shamans used it to gather up the fractured pieces of the soul, to speak with spirits, and to journey through the realms unseen. Billowing smoke represented the rise of the soul, uniting the earthly plane with the celestial skies and the underworld. It was thus helpful to seekers in the confrontation of unresolved feelings and hidden truths. Rastafarianism views cannabis as a sacred herb with which to engage oneself in meditation with divinity, to tear off ego obstacles, to unify one with God. It is for this purpose of cannabis consumption that all these customs are bound together. It was not drunk in a careless manner or for mere amusement. On the contrary, it was considered a sacred medium, a force of transcendence. As ancient practitioners realized, cannabis could quiet the mind's chatter, enabling deep reflection and a heightened sense of unity with the cosmos. Yet balance is needed in this sacred marriage. Cannabis, when used in a mindful manner, can help attune our energies much like a tuning fork can harmonize discordant vibrations. Undisciplined, it may cause more disruption than education. This dichotomy reminds us that the power of a plant is not in the plant itself, but in the knowledge and intention of the one using it.
Good evening, folks. What if the Earth tilted 90 degrees? What would happen with the motion of the oceans? Massive tsunamis is the answer to that question. You remember the giant waves in the movie 2012, continent-sized. That's what we're talking about here. And this video will show you where those tsunamis would strike if the Earth tilts as described by the Einstein crust unlocking model, which also happens to match where the actual magnetic poles are moving in the current magnetic pole shift, but I'm sure that's just a coincidence. But where such a tilt would send an inertial wave initially in the opposite direction of the tilt, followed by a sloshing back and forth that reaches higher crest heights but doesn't go as far inland. Ultimately, in that model of the Earth tilt, the Earth moves to about here, where a 90-degree tilt has the former poles at the equator and India and South America near the new poles. So, let's start with how the tilt will look for 96.3% of the people watching this video. Look at Greenland up there. I'll bring it right down to the equator. It's the crust moving and the oceans aren't attached, so they're going north here initially as the land goes south, due to inertia, hitting every southern coastline, and yes, that includes lakes as well. After several hours of this, like a forever-lasting super high tide, the Earth comes to a stop and then sloshback happens. It has stopped tilting and the inertia throws the water the other way. The water is rushing back to begin with, and we get massive impacts in the opposite direction. These will be fairly devastating as well and will occur several hours after the first waves. Looking at this from the side, the axis of the tilt, it's the same concept, but a bit more complex than one arrow pointing in one direction. Initially, inertia sends the wave opposite of the turn, and I wasn't sure if the circular arrow would be more helpful or several directional arrows, so I included both. Of course, after the tilt stops, the water does go back the other way, and therefore we see the arrows pointing the other way for the sloshback. From the other axis, it looks like this. Same circular issue with the initial waves going with inertia against the turn. Alaska, Japan, Australia, brutalized. And then after the tilt stops, the water comes back the other way. Everything pretty much takes another hit in the middle of the Pacific. This time, west coast of North America is included. Last but not least, side of the world where everything appears to be tilting northward. This is opposite of the first view we saw. Here, the initial wave goes southward, and then the sloshback sends the water northward after that tilt is complete. And by the way, that is the wave that's going to target where about 5 billion people currently live. Little tidbit. Einstein was convinced the Earth tilted like this and did the math that if you could unlock the crust from the mantle, it would tilt that way, which happens to put the new North and South poles exactly where the magnetic poles are on a collision course now in the ongoing geomagnetic excursion, which Einstein could not have known. Learn more about this disaster cycle of Earth at the link below. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the morning for the daily show.
Earth's shield is weakening. In the past 3,000 years, our planet's magnetic field has lost about 30% of its strength, and it's still dropping. But here's what most people don't know. This might be just the beginning of something much bigger. Stay with me because I'm about to show you how this invisible force protects us every single day, and what might happen when it starts to fail. So, Earth's magnetic field is our planet's first line of defense, an invisible shield stretching far into space. Without it, Earth would look a lot more like Mars, a barren world stripped of its atmosphere by the solar wind. But what exactly is this shield, and how does it work? Earth is just like a giant bar magnet, but instead of a solid piece of metal, the source is actually a massive ocean of liquid iron swirling deep beneath our feet. This molten sea, about 1,800 miles below the surface, creates electrical currents hundreds of miles wide, flowing at thousands of miles per hour as Earth rotates. Scientists call this the geodynamo, nature's own power plant. The spinning metal creates a magnetic bubble around Earth called the magnetosphere. It's not a perfect sphere, though. It's more like a windsock in space. The solar wind, a stream of charged particles from the sun, compresses it on the day side and stretches it into a long tail on the night side. But here's the really cool part. This magnetic field creates two giant donut-shaped zones called the Van Allen belts, which trap harmful radiation from space. Think of them as Earth's very own particle accelerator, catching cosmic rays and solar particles before they can reach us. But this shield isn't as stable as we once thought. In fact, right now, something strange is happening to our magnetic defenses, and it's happening faster than anyone expected. Remember when I said our magnetic shield is weakening? Well, scientists have discovered a massive weak spot over the South Atlantic Ocean, stretching from South America to Africa. They call it the South Atlantic Anomaly, and it's like a dent in our magnetic armor where the field is significantly weaker than normal. This weak spot isn't just an interesting scientific curiosity, it's already causing problems. Satellites passing through this region regularly experience electronic glitches and failures. It's like they're passing through a cosmic weak spot where our shield can't protect them as well. But that's not all. Earth's magnetic poles are on the move. The magnetic North Pole is racing toward Siberia at an astounding 34 miles per year. That's about 3 times faster than it was moving in the 1990s. Imagine if your compass started becoming less reliable every year. Scientists have found evidence of this pattern before. By studying ancient rocks, they've discovered that Earth's magnetic field has flipped completely, with north becoming south and south becoming north, hundreds of times in our planet's history. The last major reversal happened about 780,000 years ago. But how does a magnetic flip actually work? Remember that ocean of liquid iron? Changes in how it flows can weaken some parts of the field and strengthen others. During a reversal, the field doesn't just switch off and on like a light switch. It's more like a dimmer that gradually fades down and then builds back up in the opposite direction. The process can take anywhere from a few hundred to a few thousand years to complete. During this time, we wouldn't be left completely defenseless. The field becomes more complex with multiple magnetic poles popping up in unexpected places. Think of it like a choir transitioning between songs. There's a period where both melodies overlap. Scientists have identified shorter events called excursions where the field weakens significantly but then recovers without fully reversing. These happen about 10 times more frequently than full reversals, and we might be entering one of these periods now. But what does all this mean for life on Earth? As the field continues to weaken, these effects could become more widespread. What about radiation reaching Earth's surface? Here's something most people don't know. Our atmosphere is actually our main shield against radiation, and it's as effective as a 13-foot thick concrete wall. Even if the magnetic field weakens significantly, the atmosphere will still protect us from most harmful radiation. However, some animals might face challenges. Species that use magnetic fields for navigation, like sea turtles, whales, and some birds, would need to adapt. We're living in a unique time where we can actually study this process as it happens. With satellites like the European Space Agency's SWARM mission constantly monitoring our magnetic field, we're learning more about these changes than ever before. So while Earth's magnetic field is indeed changing, it's not time to panic. This is a slow, natural process that our planet has gone through many times before. What makes this time different is that we're here to witness and understand it.
Multiple insiders with credible military and corporate backgrounds have said that extraterrestrial spacecraft have appeared over nuclear missile installations and have completely powered them down.
First, I'd like to briefly describe the incident that I experienced in March 1967. At that time, I was a first lieutenant, U.S. Air Force, stationed at Malmstrom Air Force Base, Montana. I was trained and assigned duties as a missile launch officer for the Minuteman I intercontinental ballistic missile. We had operational control over 10 Minuteman nuclear missiles. On the evening of March 24, 1967, while my commander was on a scheduled rest break, I received the first of two phone calls. The first call was to report unidentified lighted objects flying above the facility.
Well, they were hovering above the nuclear silos, and what was happening was they didn't attack the nuclear silos. All they did was shut down. Captain Robert Salas had like 8 nuclear-tipped ICBMs, and they all got shut down in rapid succession. And these systems have triple redundancy backup systems. So, and the guards up topside were with their weapons drawn with a glowing red saucer above the silo. And then the UFO then went 60 miles to the other base and shut down their nuclear missiles as well. This has happened more than once. It's happened in Brentwaters in the UK as well.
What most people haven't heard came to me from two insiders, Bob Dean and Pete Peterson, where both of them independently told me that in the year 1990, all of the nuclear warheads in the US and in the USSR completely melted down, became radioactively inert, and even the missiles themselves would just sputter around and wouldn't even fly a straight trajectory anymore. Right during the same time that all of these nuclear missiles were literally melted down inside the warhead, we also have this amazing formation appear on a dry lake bed in Oregon.
The Idaho National Guard has a huge mystery on its hands, and that is our top story today. During routine photo reconnaissance missions over Oregon, RF-4 jets spotted and took photographs of a huge carving in the desert over 1,000 feet across.
It has everybody talking. I mean, this is just something that, well, it chills you.
How would somebody do this? It's incredibly time-consuming. a lot of expertise involved, had to take a long period of time and maybe a lot of money.
From point to point is exactly 11.5 degrees. Exactly. And the outer ones, they're exactly 23 degrees apart. Exactly.
No variation.
No variation.
And there's something else puzzling here, something that you do not see. You do not see tire tracks, the kind of tracks that might be made by a tractor or a plow. No tire tracks and no footprints. In Oregon, I'm Walden Kirsch for NBC News.
The reality is that this is the same type of thing that's being done with crop circle formations, but on an even more impressive scale. And that mark was a symbolic statement from the ETs. The mandala, remember, is supposed to be a symbol of the cosmic mind, a symbol of the creator, the origin of the universe, the geometric nature of how everything unfolds. So they're giving us a message. They're showing us that they will make sure that we stay on track for this positive future that's been promised to us in over 35 different ancient cultures around the world.
The seven Lords of Nine govern cosmic evolution with powers far beyond human comprehension. Their nature and function deserve deeper examination from Tehuti's direct experiences. The Three, the Darkness Keeper. Three holds the key to all hidden magic, creator of the halls of the dead, where Tehuti witnessed millions of soul flames flickering in the darkness. As Tehuti recounts, "Before me arose a great throne of darkness. Then grew in the great space before me flame after flame from the veil of night. Uncounted millions leaped they before me, some flaming forth as flowers of fire." Three sends forth power shrouded in darkness, binding souls that are in human form. This Lord directs the negative forces necessary for growth, controlling the essential shadow aspects of existence. Without darkness, light would have no meaning. Without limitation, form could not exist. Three creates the necessary resistance through which consciousness evolves, orchestrating what humans perceive as death, but which represents necessary transition. This Lord teaches that darkness serves as the womb from which new light emerges. The Four, the Life Awakener. Four is he who looses the power. Lord, he of life to the children of men. Light is his body, flame is his countenance, freer of souls to the children of men. Four is directly complementary to three, awakening life force where three binds it. Four liberates souls from limitation with a body of pure light and a face of flame. This Lord embodies the expansive, outward-flowing energy of creation, the force that pushes consciousness into new expressions. Four represents the liberating aspect of consciousness that breaks through established patterns to create new possibilities. Where three provides the container, four provides the expansive force that fills and eventually transcends that container. The Five, the Pattern Weaver. Five is the master, the Lord of all magic, key to the word that resounds among men. Five controls the patterns that organize reality through sound vibration. This Lord holds the keys to manifestation through the proper use of sound, teaching that reality forms through vibrational patterns. Tehuti instructs, "Sing thou the song of freedom. Create the high vibration that will make thee one with the whole." Five teaches that properly modulated sound creates or dissolves any physical manifestation. This Lord reveals how the universe organizes itself through mathematical relationships expressed as frequency, showing how seemingly solid matter represents frozen sound. The Six, the Light Guide. Six is the Lord of Light, the hidden pathway, part of the souls of the children of men. Six illuminates the path through darkness, showing the way when all seems lost. This Lord reveals that light exists within all beings as their essential nature. 6 teaches that illumination comes not from external sources but from within, showing that each soul contains a direct connection to cosmic light. This Lord guides consciousness through the shadowy passages between dimensional planes, representing the aspect of awareness that persists even in the darkest circumstances. 6 demonstrates that light represents not merely physical illumination but clear perception. The 7, the Space Weaver. 7 is he who is Lord of the vastness, master of space, and the key of the times. 7 controls the boundaries between dimensions and the flow of time itself. This Lord teaches that space represents not emptiness, but the living fabric that connects all manifestations. 7 shows how time moves in cycles rather than lines, demonstrating that past, present, and future exist simultaneously from higher perspectives. This Lord reveals that space-time forms a unified field that consciousness can navigate consciously once properly trained. 7 controls the cosmic boundaries that separate one reality from another while simultaneously connecting them. The 8, the Harmony Keeper. 8 is he who orders the progress, weighs and balances the journey of men. 8 maintains equilibrium throughout cosmic evolution, ensuring balanced development. This Lord weighs the karmic consequences of all actions, not as punishment but as necessary rebalancing. 8 teaches that all excess eventually returns to equilibrium and all imbalance eventually finds balance. This Lord oversees the proper relationship between all cosmic forces, ensuring that evolution proceeds harmoniously despite apparent chaos. 8 demonstrates that opposing forces actually complement rather than contradict each other when properly understood. The 9, the Formless Source. 9 is the Father, vast He of countenance, forming and changing from out of the formless. 9 represents the ultimate source beyond all dualities, the origin point from which all emerge and to which all return. Beyond gender, beyond form, beyond conception, 9 embodies the absolute potential from which all manifestation arises. This Lord contains all possibilities simultaneously, demonstrating that separation exists only as a temporary illusion. 9 teaches that unity represents the fundamental reality beneath apparent diversity. From 9 come all the other lords, all dimensions, all beings, not as separate creations but as aspects of one indivisible consciousness expressing itself through infinite variations. Tahuti teaches that these lords represent cosmic forces and simultaneously aspects of your own consciousness that you can access through specific vibrational practices.